Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into a facial feature that you've definitely heard of, but maybe couldn't quite put your finger on exactly what it is. We're talking about the button nose. So what's the real story behind it?
When you think about it, our faces are our introduction to the world, and the nose is right there front and center. It kind of acts as the anchor for everything else, shaping our profile and our whole look. It's why all these subtle differences between nose types are so fascinating to begin with.
All right, so we've all heard the term thrown around, right? But what does it actually mean? Let's break down the specific things that make a button nose, well, a button nose.
Okay, first things first. Let's get a clear definition. We're going to look at the core characteristics.
So here it is, the official breakdown. The key things to look for are a compact shape, a really rounded tip, and just a slight upward curve. That whole combination gives it the soft, balanced look. And yeah, the name is pretty literal. It's meant to resemble a neat little button.
And if we break that down even further, you can see these key visual cues. Compact just means it doesn't stick out a whole lot. The soft, rounded contours are really its signature, no sharp angles here. Then you add in a low bridge and the fact that it doesn't project too far from the face, and you've got the complete picture.
Now, this is a really important distinction to make. While a button nose is usually on the smaller side, not every small nose is a button nose. See, it's not about the size, it's all about the shape. You can have a small nose that's sharp or straight. A button nose is specifically about that rounded, slightly upturned tip. Okay, so we've got the what down pat. Now let's get into the why. Let's look at the actual blueprint, the anatomy and the genetics behind this particular shape.
From an anatomy perspective, it's really a three-part story. First, you've got the nasal bridge, which is typically low because of the shape of the nasal bones. Then the rounded tip is created by how the lower lateral cartilages curve. They're soft and gentle, not sharp. And that little upward turn, that's what's called tip rotation, and it's all about the specific angle of that cartilage.
So where does this blueprint even come from? Well, it's not something you develop from habits or, facial exercises. It's basically written in your DNA. The specific shape of your bones and cartilage is an inherited trait, passed down from your family through the generations.
Next up, and this is really important, we shouldn't think of the button nose as just one single rigid type. It's actually more of a spectrum of shapes.
For instance, you have what you might call the classic button nose, where everything is really balanced. But you can also have a wide button nose. With that one, the base is a bit broader, but it still has that signature rounded, upturned tip. It's the same fundamental shape, just with slightly different proportions.
This chart is super helpful for putting everything in context. Just look at the button nose column. Low bridge, rounded tip, short length. Now, look over at the Roman nose. Prominent bridge, longer, and the tip doesn't necessarily turn up. The differences become really clear when you see them side by side. Each shape just has its own unique combination of features. All right, let's shift gears a bit and talk about something more subjective. Beauty, and how we perceive these features. Now, we're not making any judgments here. We're just going to explore some of the cultural ideas that are out there.
So in some cultures, the button nose gets linked with youthfulness, probably because its soft, compact features are more common in younger people. Its smaller size is also sometimes seen as creating a sense of facial harmony, letting other features like the eyes or lips really stand out. But of course, these are all just cultural interpretations, shaped by media and social trends. They're definitely not universal truths.
And really, when you look at beauty on a global scale, you realize there is no single rule book. What one culture values can be totally different from another. And maybe most importantly, these standards are always changing. The biggest trend we're seeing right now is a huge shift away from any one ideal and toward a much broader celebration of all kinds of different appearances.
Now for my favorite part, a little myth busting. There is so much misinformation floating around about nose shapes, so let's set the record straight on a few really common questions.
This has to be the #1 myth out there. I'm sure you've seen it online, videos and articles claiming you can totally reshape your nose if you just do certain exercises or pinch it every day.
And here is the simple scientific fact. Your nose is made of bone and cartilage. They aren't muscles. You can't work out a bone. And you can't permanently reshape cartilage with a little bit of pressure. It just doesn't work like that. Any tiny change you think you see is just temporary, like from pushing on the tissue. Okay, here's another common concern: function. People wonder if the shape of their nose on the outside has anything to do with how well they can breathe. And the answer, for the most part, is no. Breathing is really an inside job. Your ability to get a clear breath is all about internal structures, like your septum and your nasal valve. The external shape doesn't really have much to do with it. Form and function are pretty separate here.
And finally, the big one. People have been trying to link personality traits to facial features for centuries. So how many are scientifically proven to be connected to your nose shape? The answer is a big, fat 0. The idea that you can tell someone's character by looking at their nose is pure folklore. There is absolutely no basis for it in modern science.
So, let's do a quick recap. A button nose is all about its shape, that rounded, upturned look, not just its size. That shape comes from your genetics, not your habits. How people see it is shaped by culture, and it's different all over the world. And all those myths about changing your nose with exercises? Yeah, they're just that, myths.
Which kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. We spend so much time trying to put faces and features into neat little categories. But what if we just saw every face not as a collection of types, but as its own unique signature? Something to chew on. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.